Good evening, everyone. Welcome. So the site and architecture meeting for September 2023 is called to order.
Well, before we call to order, I will go ahead and read the introduction.
Okay.
So, in this moment here, thank you for joining us this evening for the September 6th, 2023 Monte Sereno Site and Architectural Commission regular meeting. Before the meeting is called to order, I would like to point out a few house rules to assist our commissioners, staff, and members of the public to successfully participate in the meeting. For tonight's meeting, Zoom is being used to allow public participation with the Site and Architectural Commission's regular meeting. For those using Zoom to participate, there are two icons, chat and raise hand. Please use chat only to report technical issues such as being unable to hear a commissioner speaking. Please use raise hand to be recognized by the chair and able to speak to the commission. Only attendees using the Zoom application can use the raise hand option to comment. Participants calling in from a telephone will only be able to listen, cannot provide feedback or public comment. Lastly, if all are not in the same room, all votes in the meeting must be taken by roll call.
All right, now we call the meeting to order. Right. So, first, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. Vice Chair Balasubramanian,
Present.
Commissioner Conley,
Here.
Commissioner Srivastava, Commissioner White,
Present.
and Chair Neidler is absent tonight.
Are there any items, from the public, that they want to talk about that's not included in the agenda?
We don't have any raised hands.
In that case, we'll move on to the next section, which is any written communication. So we received a lot of written communication, and that's been posted to the site. But anything received after that, that's not included in, for the site.
No, everything has been posted and emailed to the commissioners.
And moving on, has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes for the last meeting, August 2023 meeting? Oh, yeah. Okay. Any anything to point out? Any errors? Corrections?
I would move that we approve this. Second.
Can we do a roll call?
So before we do make a motion, can we go ahead and open it for public comment so if there's anyone who needs to comment from the public? If
Oh,
not, we can bring it back for you guys to proceed with your motion.
We do that for minutes?
We do that for any elections, yeah.
Okay, so anybody in the public that wants to talk about the minutes of August 2023? Okay,
And hands are raised.
all right, that's good. So in that case, we'll
Close public comment and bring it back to
okay,
you.
we'll close the public comment and then bring it back to the commission. So I heard a motion. Let's still stands and second, and okay, let's do a roll call to approve the minutes for the meeting minutes for August 2023 meeting.
Commissioner Balasubramanian,
Yes.
Commissioner Conley,
Here.
Commissioner Srivastava, approved. Commissioner White,
Approved.
So we move on to the first item in the agenda, which is application 2022-3049 for a fence design permit at 15096 Danielle Place. Ms. Perkins, can you give us a overview of the project, please?
yes, thank you. This is an application for a fence design permit at 15096 Danielle Place. The application is for an 8-foot high fence in the rear yard and the interior side yards of the property. The proposed fence would be 5 feet of solid wood fencing and 3 feet of lattice on the top. There are portions of the existing fence that exceed this height. And if the fence design permit is approved tonight, the existing fence would need to be altered to comply with the approved fence design, which is a maximum of 8 feet allowed by the municipal code. Such alterations would be reviewed and inspected by city staff as part of the building permit that would be required for the fence as it is over 7 feet in height. The Monte Sereno Municipal Code requires that a fence design permit be approved for any fence up to 8 feet in height at properties that meet one of 6 objective criteria that are specified in the code. As this property has an accessory building within 13 feet of the fence, the site meets one of these objective criteria specified. So staff recommends that the Site and Architectural Commission approve the fence design permit with the conditions noted in the memorandum of decision that's attached to the staff report. And that completes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions?
And don't have a question, I just want to clarify something. It's my understanding that the commission has no discretion in relationship to this item because it meets the criteria for approval of 8 feet by virtue of the accessory structure, is that correct?
That is correct. So the commission would confirm that the project, or if the project meets the objective criteria of the municipal code, and if so, it would be required to be approved.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, so do we have anyone in the public that wants to talk about this project? Do we have the owners? Please step forward.
You don't have to talk, but if you want to, you can.
It's been a long road, so we appreciate it.
The mic turned on, you don't know, just for the moment.
Right at the bottom, there's a little button.
Well, appreciate it. First off, I want to say thank you to Diana, because she kind of walked me through this whole process, and her team I've never done one before, so it's a process to understand what we need to do and how we need to draw it up. But more important, we want to just go over the facts. We are within the code to be able to do this, as she stated. But there's a reason that we did this, and the reason that we did this is for the safety of our family. And what we've run into is coyote problems, and the coyotes have been jumping over our fences. And this really came into effect when we had our children in the pool, and our pool was surrounded by 4 coyotes with our children in the pool. Children sprinted in the home, crying, screaming. I ran out, chased them out. And we're not in the far hills, right? This is right down the street off of Quito. Then we had another incident where they came in the morning, in the middle of the night, and our light went on, and I went out there and I chased another one out. And I watched them hop our fence, which in most of the area around the fence is about 5 feet. Some areas it's 6, depending on the undulation of the land. I watched it hop the fence like it wasn't even there. Like it literally was like walking over the fence. So we knew we had to do something. This is an internal fence, so I didn't realize the idea of the permit action that needed to be taken. But we did take action with all of our neighbors. We spoke with every single neighbor. One of them is here. But we have 2 notes from our neighbors as well. We would never put a fence up without approval from a neighbor. I mean, that's just not who we are. So we went to every neighbor. My wife actually did it. She's a nice lady, so I thought she might better do it. So she spoke to every neighbor, showed every neighbor what we were going to put up, and that we would pay for all of it. And everyone said yes, they understood it. They said some of them had some questions, some of them did not. As we proceeded to put the fence up, this is where we ran into some of the issues, as you've seen from one of the neighbors who was disputing this. And in the end, we have documentation because we followed up via text without approval, and they approved it via text. And then we proceeded. And after we started putting that up, they changed their tone because they have a tenant in their ADU that didn't like it. I mean, quite honestly, that's how it ended up being this problem that we ran into. And we tried to make remedies and try to, work with them. It's just, there's just not reasonable working with them at this point. So we just said, you know what, we're going to proceed with this, and then we'll go through the city and take it from there. So that's been kind of what we've gone through. This is really a safety issue. It has become a privacy issue because the fence is about 5 feet tall, where the tenant's car is. So there's pictures where you can see the car from our backyard. We've also seen the tenant looking into our backyard. They talked about the line of sight of the skyline being a problem. We all have 1 acre lots. I mean, there's a lot of skyline that we can see, but their skyline is looking at our house specifically. And she said she likes looking at our house, which also makes us very uncomfortable. So there's safety, there's privacy, but more importantly, we want to protect our 2 children, and we want to protect, we have little Jack Russell Terriers, which are generally not a match for a coyote. So we want to protect them as well. I put some pictures in with them as well. Lastly, just wanted to note, they mentioned some items about the fence, the structure of it. The structure of the fence has been done professionally by a licensed contractor. The problem on their side is that we were not able to complete the fence on their side because they wouldn't let us in their yard. So with the winds that came, with the strong winter that we had, the fence fell down. I paid for all of it to be put back up. The other section they don't mention is that a tree on their side fell through the fence, shattering it completely, which I also paid for, I also fixed, and they didn't do anything to help. So we're in a dispute that shouldn't be there, but they're having a problem with their tenant, which we don't want to be in between. All the other residents that we talked to are happy with the fence, and they think it's a good thing for all of us. And I think that's, hopefully we can move forward. We'll follow all the rules and regulations on how we can move forward with this and get this thing approved and hopefully out of everyone's hair, because it has taken a lot of time and energy for all of us that hopefully we wouldn't have to do initially. So that's kind of my main remarks of it. I would just say we're generally pretty reasonable people. If people want to work with us, we're totally open for it. We would never do anything with a neighbor that they didn't want. And we specifically showed all the plans that we were going to do ahead of time. So we would like the approval of that, and if you could, that would be great, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Do you have any questions?
No questions for me? Thank you.
I just have one question, and actually I have seen coyotes jump over even our 6-foot fence. I'm on Becky Lane, and yep, 2 of them jump, and my mom's really afraid. She's
Yeah.
walking, and I feel scared. I'm just asking, like, what makes you feel that an 8 feet fence is gonna, like, do you think that they won't be able to jump that?
Great question. I left that part out. We had vector control come out,
Okay,
and they actually did a report that said the 8-foot fence would keep them out.
okay.
But the biggest proof is in the pudding, knock on wood. I always get worried. There has not been a coyote in our backyard since we put the fence up. And that's been over 1 year, now almost 1 year about it. So it's been super helpful. It's brought, our kids wouldn't even go in the backyard by themselves. We're taking our dogs out on the leash in our own backyard in the evenings and in the mornings, just to be safe. So it worked so far. We followed vector control. Initially, I called the city, I called, animal control. Really, there's not a remedy for these right now. And if you've seen in the neighborhood, because you're right down the street from us, they don't even care about us. There's only one predator for them, and that's really a car, right? They don't really have a true predator. So we're just trying to protect the kids, and that's, so far so good. We're still nervous every day, but that's been, and we have cameras all over around the house. So we watch it closely to see if anything's there, but we're still, my wife and I in the morning and at night taking the dog out on the leash, especially we have a puppy, she's 8-7 pounds. And obviously that's no match for a coyote.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions?
So we do have some, hands raised online.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
so much.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and,
I have.
members of the web audience, let them speak.
Tom, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for host this hearing. I think it's I really appreciative. Everybody spent time and hear us this case. One thing I want to state is that the objections really come from me as the homeowner and has nothing to do with the tenant. And tenant brought information to me, and that's how I got to know. I immediately went out to measure, and I showed picture of this is like 9 feet tall fence. And I was standing by the fence. I have to kind of raise my head to the sky to see the top, to measure it. And that's the area that we hang out with the friends and family, my dogs too. And I feel like that's suffocating. And my other fence, about 6 feet tall, nice and beautiful, with the forest trees. By that fence, I can see tip of the tree, and that's really feel like incarcerated. And I appreciate the neighbor's concern about safety and security. I appreciate that. I understand that. I have dog I need to take care of as well. But that 8 feet, it's just really tall. I mean, right now it's actually 9 feet. And if you look at the neighborhood, I walk around throughout the neighborhood. I've never seen an 8 feet fence. And it's just unsightly, it's like, what do you put up the iron fence there? What people will see, will perceive like the neighborhood architecturally, and what kind of feeling will the message you're passing to the other people. And I think as a community, as a neighborhood, we need to preserve that, the open space feeling. yes, you can always say, yeah, we'll have 1 acre lot, but why do you have to put 8 feet? And you know, for your personal concern, you impose to other people's visual pleasure and freedom of enjoyment of family, of the backyard. So that's one. And the second point about is, I think I heard earlier that there's a gazebo, I guess accessory structure is considered, is that considered an accessory building? I really trying to understand that the real purpose of that, because in that section, it talked about, yeah, 8 feet fence may be approved if it's like in the, you know, a major road, or maybe next to the commercial zone. That I can understand. But this is a neighborhood. This is all residential. And that 15 by 15 gazebo justify for like 400 long fence to be put up that high. It doesn't quite explain to me. I mean, doesn't make sense to me in this. Maybe I need to be educated. And like if I would build a 8 by 3 shed in my backyard, does that qualify me to build my fence up to 8 feet tall? And think about it, if your neighbor has a shed next to the corner and they erect the fence up to 8 feet tall, and you go in there and you see, you can only see the skies. You can maybe see a few tree tips. What would that make you feel? We all invested heavily for, you know, this beautiful city and a beautiful neighborhood, and not to want to actually have that kind of surroundings and feelings.
Thank you, Tom.
So question, so I assume Tom is the backyard neighbor?
Yes.
Okay, oh, cool, thank you.
Thank you. So we have one more person. Hello? Can you state your name?
Yes, you can hear me?
Yes, can you state your name just because?
Yes, my name is Liana, and I'm also the next door neighbor. And I do have a few comments objectively on the application. But before that, I think because Mike actually mentioned about the dispute, and I do want to take the opportunity to respond to that. So first of all, his wife came to my door. Yes, she did come to my door, which is about 2 months after we moved into this house at Monte Sereno. And then what she said is that, you know, they're gonna have a coyote issue, and they like to make the fence higher. And I'm like, sure, okay. And I'm very happy to meet neighbors. And I also actually proposed that, do you need us to share the cost? Because usually when people come over or talk about the fence, they are asked to share the cost. So I actually proposed, do you want to share the cost? And she said, no, this is something that they want to do, so no need to share. It's like, oh, so nice, okay. And then after that, you probably saw the text messages Mike sent. And basically, you know, we exchange kind of introduction and like to meet each other. And that's it. So they sent over the picture of the fence, but they never thought it's gonna be 3 feet tall lettuce. They never said it's gonna be violating the city code, because we were new. And then, you know, like if you saw the text message, and when we told them, they should have told us this specific. If you're gonna violate the city code, you should have told us. If you're gonna build up 3 feet, because they say it's gonna be higher, you know, but he responded that you should have asked. Well, I think that the burden should be the information giver. You cannot expect us to ask all the questions. There gotta be something that we do not ask, but we expect them to do the right thing. And if there's something important, especially make us being the shared owner of the fence that breaks city code, we should have known, but we never knew that. Only after the fence has been built up in place, and we were shocked. We were like, wow, this is so tall, 9 feet now tall, not even 8 feet as what they said on the application. It's 9 feet tall. it's just so surprising. And then we told them, hey, you know, this is not something that we can go with, especially that is violating the city code. We don't have any problem with our tenant. We all get along fine. Our tenant is more outspoken than us. So my tenant is more direct to them, and they actually have some conflict, but not between me and our tenant. We go on like perfectly fine. So that's one thing that Mike said. I'd like to clarify. I'd like to respond. And the other thing is that about our tree falling on the fence. We all know that last year there has been a couple of times where there's terrific, impossible wind. So the wind blew over the tree fell and damaged one section of the fence. And while we are trying to get the tree cleared up and try to get estimate, the neighbor, they couldn't wait. It's just a matter of a few days. The neighbor couldn't wait. And they said, oh, you know, I got a quote. I'm gonna get this done. And then said, okay, sure. So they got it done. And 1 month later, they sent us an invoice of over $4,000 invoice. And in there, there's replacing 2 sections, $500 each, 2 sections. So one section is damaged by the tree. Another section is blown over by the wind. So I paid them $750. I sent over the picture just now for this for you guys' reference. So that will be the full payment of the section damaged by the tree and half the payment for the section damaged by the wind. But in their invoice, they actually add in another cost of $3,000, $3,200, something called support post, which they never told us about. Where are those 12 posts?
You have a question here. So this dispute is not something we can deliberate over, right?
Yeah, right.
No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you?
Can you pause?
So, I mean, no, this is just public, like, she has abilities to, you know, comment on what she's saying, but no,
Yeah.
the dispute is something you guys will not have.
Oh, okay.
So what is being presented by staff is the permit for the fence design
Yeah,
permit.
just clarification, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry, go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I'll keep it short.
I'm sorry.
I'll keep it short. Yeah, because I just want to respond to what Michael said. If not, I wouldn't have said that, because Michael said our tree damage and we didn't do nothing, but that's not correct. So I just want to respond and clarify. Otherwise, I wouldn't have mentioned that, because it has nothing to do with the permit. We shouldn't spend time here talk about unrelated stuff. But since he mentioned that, I feel like I have to clarify. So that's it. And then another thing I just want to very, very quickly clarify is that we never refuse access to our yard. If they said, hey, I want to go there to do something, which never happened. So there's never occurred that they ask. So it doesn't make sense for them to say we reject the access. It just never happened. So I don't know what else he said, that because I didn't take note, and then it's kind of surprising that he just mentioned those things. So that's it. But yeah, but I do have, if we can get back to the agenda of the application, I do have a couple questions.
So actually, I did have a timer, and our public comments, other than the applicant itself, they actually have a little bit more time, but public comments are only 3 minutes, and I do have the timer. I'm sorry, your time is up.
Can I just ask one question? I just asked one question, which is, how about the definition of the height of the fence, if you guys can clarify?
Yeah.
So
Thank
we'll be discussing that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that'll be bringing you back to discussion once we've closed public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about taking so long.
Anybody else from the public that have their hands raised?
No other hands are raised. Is there anybody in chambers?
Yes, that's someone inside that.
No, you go first.
Yeah.
Hi, I am the neighbor in the back. My name is Adriana Ricenia, and my address is 15147 Elm Park. So the largest part of the fence that we share is between us. So in the backyard, they were very clear to me when they told me what the fence was going to look like and what height it was going to be in the end. I agree with them about the coyotes, because I also have a chicken coop and I'm careful of how I can maintain my area. So, and I have seen them jump freely over the fence. I haven't seen him since this fence went up, which is a good feeling. I'm a little confused because the other house is to the left and I don't really share a fence with them technically, but all I see is greenery. I can't tell what's being blocked by the fence from my side, but I think the safety issue with their pets and the kids, they're pretty hysterical. I remember the night that the coyotes went over the fence and I could hear the kids screaming and I thought, what is going on next door? So I think it's a safety issue. I myself love the fence. I think it looks wonderful. It gives us all more privacy. And again, these are acre lots. So there's a lot of sky out there. That's all I'm gonna say, you know, that everybody can enjoy. So I don't know what else I could add to the situation, but they were very clear with me of exactly what things were gonna look like. Because at first I said, whoa, explain it to me, because all of a sudden I imagined the wall, but it didn't turn out that way, at least not from my yard. So yeah, I wish I could enclose my yard more, but my front yard is considered, part of my backyard is considered my front yard because of the curvature of the street on Elm Park. But I would love to have a fence like that if I could.
Thank you for your comment. Right. Anything else in the public?
Thank you so much for that. So I'm Amy Catalano at the house resident, 1506 Danielle Place. So just wanted to reiterate the importance of the safety issue as a mother and seeing like 2 children go through what they went through in that experience. And I definitely understand everybody has their point of view. At the end of the day, like we live in a community where the psychological safety of children being afraid to go outside, having nightmares, like it was really tough for a while. And just like one comment on how I know that fence works is even in the 2 weeks that the fence was down, there was like remains of a bunny, like 3 feet from the back door. So we had to get the fence back up. I know we're not gonna talk about the new fence. This is about the permit of the fence, but just to let you all know how emotionally and like physically traumatizing the situation was for us. And that this is the one thing that's giving us the safety net. And we know it works. And vector control was spot on. They saw the feces in the backyard. They basically said, this is the one thing that will work. And we were just starting to feel comfortable, like we still are on the leash at night, but we're still starting to feel a lot more safe in our home. But that's all.
Thank you for your comment. So anybody else in public that have their hands raised?
No more hands.
Okay, so if not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the function. So
The reason I asked the question I did at the outset,
yeah,
we don't have any discretion. So
yeah.
I would move that I'm not a big fan of big tall fences, but we adopted this change in the ordinance 4 years ago, I can't recall. And there are incidents when it's appropriate to have a tall fence, and this meets the criteria for doing so. So I would make a motion that we adopt the memorandum attached to the staff report 2022-3049.
Right.
I do have a comment. So I do want to clarify this 8 feet versus 9 feet discrepancy. Because first of all, it seems that the fence was built and this is a retrospective approval, right? So I think that's a bit of a violation. Like there is a very clear guidance that if a project crosses a certain dollar amount, it needs to be approved by the city first. So this retrospective, approval is a little bit of a ding in my opinion. But more importantly, I am concerned about this 8 feet versus 9 feet discrepancy, because if it is actually built at a height of 9 feet, then I think there is a violation. But if it is 8 feet fence and we are being objective with respect to what the city allows, I don't see any concern. So that's number one. The second point that I want to make here is the definition of an accessory building. So I would love Ms. Perkins to, kind of elucidate on this point, like is a gazebo a good definition of a accessory building, or is like if I just have like a tent, makeshift tent, does that also qualify? What exactly is the definition of that accessory building? Because that is the only criteria that that is opening the gate for this fence, right? So let's be clear what that criteria is.
Okay, so if I may, for your first comment, what is under consideration tonight is an 8-foot high fence. If the existing fence exceeds that, which will be verified by the building inspector as part of the required building permit, it will need to be altered to be no higher than 8 feet.
Okay.
The municipal code does have a definition of an accessory building, and it is a subordinate building for other than dwelling purposes, for uses of which is incidental to that of the main building on the lot. Examples are a garage, greenhouse, hobby shop, pool house, or a cabana. And it says to be considered as an accessory building, the building must be separated from any other building by at least 6 feet, measured from roof eave to roof eave. So the gazebo structure does qualify by definition as an accessory building.
Okay, so cabana, basically the category. Okay, then
Any other comments?
just clarify those two.
Yeah, Mr. Conley, any other comments from you?
I second the motion.
So I, just a quick, follow-up, right? So I agree, so I think, Ms. Perkins has clarified that, portions of the fence that exceed 8 feet will be, corrected, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and, the fence is in compliance, just to, let everyone know, there's no, violation here, except for the places where the fence exceeds 8 feet, right? And, quite a lot of points were raised, and just, one thing is, we cannot deliberate on the dispute between the property owners, that's for them to resolve, right? That we won't even talk about it. So other than that, I think, I agree with,
Take a vote on the motion.
yeah.
Call for the question.
Ready, Paul? Yeah. Vice Chair Balasubramanian,
Approve.
Commissioner Conley,
Approved.
Commissioner Srivastava.
Approved subject to the inspection of the height.
Correct, that is a condition in the memo decision. And Commissioner White.
Approved.
I think, that concludes all the.
Thank you guys very much for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
very much.
We adjourn at 7:45.